Greg, is Jeannie's joining us?
6:01 and you're now live.
So it's like
We're live.
live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Common Council Finance and Human Resource Committee meeting, Monday, June 13th. Common Council member Katie LaParra-Shu.
Present.
Common Council member Scott Harrington.
Yes.
Common Council member John Rafter. Here. Also like to acknowledge our city administrator Greg Tice is here. Is it? For you, didn't we put that? It's not in the other plan, but darn. Could have had your name down. Mandatory. Is there any need for corrections, additions, or subtractions to the minutes that were provided electronically?
No.
Hearing none, will approve. Topic A, the 2022 street project budget.
I'm very excited about this.
Do you have the Excel spreadsheet, Greg?
You want me to start off? Or
Yeah.
Quick summary. So I sent a memo out with the agenda. Everyone had a chance to take a look through that. Just a quick summary of what that said is all this funding that we're talking about for this item is state funding. It's coming from the CHIPS program. That's an annual allotment we get based on the number of lane miles or center line miles in our city, of which we have around 40. We get this year we got right around 330,000. We also have a rollover balance from previous years. There are several other programs: the Pavement Line program, the Extreme Winter Recovery program, the Pave Our Potholes program, which is a new program this year, and the State Touring Route program. They're all funded through New York State, coming directly to the city, and they all follow the same general guidelines as far as what's eligible. This is for street improvements. In some cases, some of these programs you'll remember we funded the street sweeper through the CHIPS program. Some equipment that goes toward the maintenance or construction of streets can be funded through this program. Drainage, curbs, sidewalks, pavement, those sorts of things, bridges, culverts. So we're proposing to spend right now, set up a budget, $285,000 for pavement maintenance being crack sealing, chip sealing, those sort of things, extending the life of existing surfaces, not replacing those asphalt surfaces. And we include in that some other miscellaneous things like guide rail, a few places, maybe miscellaneous sections of sidewalk, I think. Anything else I'm forgetting in there? And then we have another project we want to set up, the city internal project, $120,000 for pavement rehabilitation. We call rehabilitation would be milling and paving for the most part of pavement, and any associated drainage work. So there might be some catch basins, some storm lines that might be deteriorated and need to be replaced, or small sections of curb, things like that. Any of these projects that are funded through these programs, well, not any of them, not crack sealing and that sort of thing, but pavement rehabilitation or reconstruction requires us to put in ADA accessible curb ramps at crosswalks if they're not already there for the section of road that we're doing. So there's 3 streets, and actually, well, I'll come back to that. So there's 3 streets I believe we have on the list for that. We also want to dedicate $710,000 for partial replacement of 2 culverts, Silver Creek underneath Clinton Street and Silver Creek underneath the corner of Brook Street and Center Street. Mm-hmm. Those aren't entirely, we're not going to entirely replace the culverts, we're basically replacing the top slab sections that need to be replaced. That would be for design and construction, be something that we'd be relatively soon going forward with an RFQ or RFP for engineer to design, and then bidding later this year for possible construction this fall, perhaps more likely in the spring, depending on material availability, contractor availability, that sort of thing. These 2 were identified based on some inspections that we contracted Delaware Engineering to do after we ourselves, DW, had noticed that there were some issues we want to take a look at. So we saw some settlement at Brook Street. So you see at the end of Brook Street, there's some barricades there now. We don't want people driving over the one section until we're able to address this issue. And the one at Clinton Street, we noticed a similar issue by a catch basin where subsequent investigations revealed the need to do these projects. And then the final one, which we're not going to be asking you to set up a budget for right this moment, is the Gardner-Place Reconstruction. We're finalizing some drawings and we'll bid for that. Once we have the bid price back, then we'll know exactly where our budget needs to be, and we'll come back to the council to both award a contract and set up a budget at that time. And that'll be like a month or two.
What's the matter with Gardner-Place?
It's just a project on the list for to be done.
Just
Well,
street
curbs.
Just on the street?
Curves in the street.
Some drainage.
It's not there now, adding something to improve.
Basically, this road is sloped one way and it floods out driveways. And so we're gonna put a crown in it so it flows properly to both sides of the street. We're gonna put some storm catch basins in halfway up the road to, alleviate that problem.
Good.
So just going back to the pavement rehabilitation, there's actually 2 streets we have listed for 2022, Cliff Street and State Street.
Right. Is there any questions from the committee?
I have one. Some time back, someone up in Monroe asked me about curbs going into Monroe. Anything on that?
Yeah, we had included, I think, around $50,000 from our Streets and Sidewalks Reserve for sidewalk replacement this year. That's a different funding source, not CHIPS or state funding, but city funding, but from a reserve. And we did have that on the list to be done.
So it's on the list to be
along with,
done.
some other.
Any sense of when that might happen?
I know that bid is being prepared, it's probably in at least a few weeks before it goes.
It's a little ways out. It's probably about a month out. I would say Gardner-Place would be first. We're working on the painting and striping bid now. That's also gonna be coming out soon. The sidewalk bid will probably be next in
Yeah.
line. We actually just are getting the sidewalks done from last year. They came in last fall, didn't have enough time. They actually decided that they were gonna agree to hold their bid from last year as long as they get the work done by the end of this month. I know you've seen probably some dig outs for sidewalks around the city. So that's last year's project, sidewalk project, so we're still gonna have a project for this year as well.
And so that was what I was gonna ask about, so that is expected to be completed by the end of the month?
Yes, they're actually planned to pour, I believe, late this week, early next week.
Awesome, cool,
So,
thanks.
yes, that's 2021 funding.
I remember, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
And then just 2 other larger sidewalk sections that are included in that pavement maintenance and miscellaneous category. The $285,000 are Duane Street, that section there, Scott, it's real bad. And then Elm Street, the top of Elm, from Normal down to Cedar, and just around the corner on Normal. So, and I'm sure that there are other miscellaneous small sections that will be part of the bid.
We have a continual list. Every time a landowner calls us, we add their concern we go meet with them to look at the situation, and we add it to our Excel spreadsheet. It's an ongoing list.
Okay.
Is the STR program something new?
That was new last year. We had no idea that was going to be happening, and that was $740,000, which is, obviously twice what we're getting from the CHIPS program, which is great. And it was continued again this year, which is also great. I don't know, we have no indication of how long that will be around. Really, the only program that Ginny and I look at and say, we know we're going to get this every year is the CHIPS program. All the other ones have been added on over the years, and sometimes they've ended and then restarted. So we don't really count on that until it happens.
Did we get money last year on the STR?
Yeah.
We did.
We haven't, so this money doesn't, it's a reimbursement program, so it's there, it's dedicated to us, and when we do a project, we submit for reimbursement. So we haven't drawn down, well, we have a little bit, the STR from last year.
Yeah, the request is in for 250,000, and we were very lucky because they rolled it over for the next year. So we've gotten 1.48 for 2 years.
Yeah, and we're looking ahead to next year, as to what we're hoping to accomplish then as well. We'll have some more rollover funds, obviously, we will anticipate getting more from the state in the next year as well.
Any other questions on topic A? Anyone not approving? Hearing none, we'll move that up to the council. Topic B.
So the school has a senior project. It's a sign project, LED sign out front on the corner of Graduate Ave and East Street. They had difficulty with NYSEG getting power dedicated to the sign. So we talked with them. They asked us to allow them to put a sub panel on the side of our panel that's there for our signal light. We agreed to it. However, to do so, we need to get an official agreement, intermunicipal agreement in place between the city and the school district. They are moving forward with the construction portion because it's going to take some time to work out the agreement. And they wanted to have the sign installed in time for graduation. So we're allowing them to continue with the project, coordinating with them. And I believe NYSEG is doing there has to be an upgrade to our service there. Right now it's a 30 amp service, has to be a 60 amp service to provide enough power for the sign. So we're working with Merzig to get an agreement worked out.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move that to full council. Topic C.
We just received one bid for the concrete mix, and we would like to bring that forward to council for approval. And it was through Otsego Ready Mix.
There were two bids, Cranesville Block
Oh, Cranesville Block.
and Otsego Ready Mix. And
Oh.
Cranesville's the one that we were going to.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize. You want to update that? 'Cause I was going on my update that I had gotten. Maybe I didn't get the most recent.
So, I don't have all the particulars of the bid, but basically as far as the transit mix type A concrete goes, their bid was $116 a cubic yard from Cranesville Block, and Otsego Ready Mix was $150 a cubic yard. Greg, I don't know, do you have access to the bid results for that?
I can go downstairs and get them. I apologize.
It's okay.
There are multiple, there's like, I want to say there's like 12 bid items on that,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah, there
It's
is.
no different than the fuel, so we're
Okay.
good.
Okay.
But Cranesville Block's the one we want to go
Okay.
with.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then I'll go to full council. Topic D, Chris, you want to update us on the
So the concerns that were brought up at council, I contacted the timber agent and requested that they add some language in there about best management practices for timber harvest and erosion and sediment control for the timber harvest. They are going to modify their contract, and I hope that I will have that revised contract for council.
Great.
I don't think there was anything else, was it? No. For sure, that was the two concerns.
Yeah, there were, I mean, my understanding was that there are some established guidelines in place, and we were just gonna ask them to put in writing that they will adhere to those guidelines, so.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, but Chris, just so you know, Dave Merzig got back to me and I do not have a conflict, so you'll have my support on that.
Okay.
Greg, is there a need for an executive session?
There is, but actually first, there's another item that we'd like to walk on, if that's okay with you. So we had a contract with Delaware Engineering for the preparation of bid specifications and drawings for the demolition of 27 Market Street. That was entered into more than a year ago now. That was for $44,000. It did not include at that time lead and asbestos testing and geotechnical investigations, which are done by third parties. So we negotiated the addition of those services to the contract. And now we need to modify the contract because it's, following our change order policy, the $22,330 is what the cost is. That's more than 10% of the contract, which was $44,000. So we need to go through the finance committee and to council to approve.
So we're moving from 44K to 60.
Yeah,
Seven.
the 44,000 was for Delaware Engineering Services, engineering, design, drawings, and bid specs. The 22,330 were for two lead and asbestos sub-consultant testing contractor, essentially, that came in, took samples, did the testing, created a report. submit that to Delaware. Geotechnical investigations for a separate sub-consultant to field borings and analysis and create a report.
We're moving this money from the DRI, isn't that where we got the money to begin with?
This funding, we have a $477,000 Restore New York.
Oh, okay, we're moving from there. Okay.
Obviously, as you know, our total project budget is much higher than that.
Mhm.
We're still seeking to increase that funding.
So this is a reimbursement for services from a third party that have already happened?
Yes.
Okay.
We just need to amend the contract. That was an oversight on my part to not have it done sooner than now.
Any other questions?
No.
No.
Hearing none, I'll move to full council.
One other item I had other than the executive session,
Yes, 2 items?
that was it, other than the executive
I thought
session.
you were gonna walk on another.
Not walking anything on. So.
So whoever's gonna call for executive session.
All right, so move
I'd like to have
on.
an executive session
Well,
discussion.
What are we doing for? Let me know.
Exactly, we need to know this.
What's that?
Personnel?
To discuss the personnel, an issue leading to employment of a particular,
Okay.
So moved. Oh,
Second.
Second.
to invite Katie Becker.
So Katie, you